So welcome to the Grow with Ryan Magic podcast. I'm here today with Brett Campbell. Thanks so much for coming on, man. We really had a great chat last week on your podcast, and I'm excited to have you on today and focus a little bit more around your journey. So thanks so much for coming on, man.
Mate, absolutely. Had a blast. And yes, you're right. We had a great conversation last week, and I feel we just sort of started to tap into it. So, mate, super excited to continue that dialogue.
Awesome, bro. One thing that I feel like you normalize in the way that you approach business and your life is that what you want to do, you just tend to do. And this is like a theme that I see with people that are at a high level of success. You're definitely in that category. For example, when you had your fitness business, you being able to go to 35 different locations in 6 months, in the first 6 months, I mean, that's a pretty ridiculous accomplishment. It's quick moving. It's quick pace. It's like you felt something, you had the desire to move into it, and you made it happen. How have you been able to develop yourself to that point where you can shortcut the gap between feeling a desire to do something and then actually being able to just to take the action and do it?
Mate, I might need 3 days to break that down. I've spent a lot of time self-reflecting because I realize I'm very different to a lot of people. And what I feel is like natural or normal, or let me frame that, what I felt was natural or normal, because now I truly understand at a deep level, the ability to move quick, for me seems like the natural thing to do, but for others, obviously for many, is the hold on a minute, the things are moving too fast, right? This definitely stems from childhood, right? The ability to be curious. I was always a curious kid. I loved problem solving. Like I liked figuring things out, right? Whether I'd tinker with things or, like even my mum, I remember she was saying that when I was 3 years old, I'd be unscrewing the hinges on the door just so I could screw them back up and fix it. Like she'd be walking around the house and she's like, "Where's Brett?" And there's this, 4-year-olds climbed up the trellis outside to get on the roof just to see further, right? So just so I could be curious. And it was definitely something that was innate with me, right? So it's certainly something that I've honed and developed as more of a positive attribute than a disastrous one, right? Because sometimes these things could send you down the wrong garden path, and it could be very detrimental to myself. But it was this insatiable curiousness to figure things out. And what I uncovered quickly was that if I could solve a problem, I could then move on to the next thing to fix or create. And so it was the ability to move through it as fast as I possibly could with the least amount of disaster that would fit within societal means. And, figure the rest out on the way. I've definitely lived with that sort of ethos of, and I joke around sometimes by saying, I'll shoot first, then I'll shoot second, and I'll have a couple more shots, and then I'll decide to aim. Very loosely, you could, for those who know me really well, would be like, yes, that makes a lot of sense. That's pretty much it. But what I've been able to enhance over the last few years, especially in the entrepreneur world, the business world, is the ability to identify quickly whether or not something is going to work or not work, or if things need to be changed or things need to be pivoted. I use the metaphor of, a lot of people can join dots, right? So you can join the dots, but what I seem to be able to do is identify dots that others can't see along the journey.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like the overarching principle here that I've had to make a big shift around the way that I've approached business as well, from wanting to get outcomes to actually realizing that I love challenge. I actually really enjoy, like if I could choose between more profit, but real easy kind of like same stuff all the time, or less profit, but big exciting things that I'm not sure how they're going to go, I would choose the less profit and more exciting because that's what's fun for me. That's what's a passion for me. And I feel that's one thing that's different with a lot of entrepreneurs. You see it with Gary Vee, you can see it with yourself, you see it with people that are Olympians and get to the top of their fields in the world. They love the actual process. They actually love it. And if they had to change it, they would enjoy it less. If it was easier, they would enjoy it less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely love the process. As a kid after school, this was before iPhones and iPods. After school, I would literally, we lived on the back, the main river in New Zealand. So I grew up in New Zealand. The main river sort of backed onto our house. So we lived in a house, and there's about 100 meters worth of, let's call it, farmland in between our backyard and the river. So it's just like basically a long narrow strip. And there was trees that line the river. And every day after school, myself and my friends would be out there. And if my friends weren't, I'd still be out there. We were out there building tree huts, right? So I'd be building tree huts because I want to create something. I wanted to see something come to life. And what we'd do is, because we had very minimal resources, right, to the point where sometimes we're using tree branches as as framing and so on and so forth. And luckily we had a guy just down the road from us who used to fix and repair old pallets, the old timber pallets. So we'd take broken pallets and we'd use those pieces of timber to construct what we'd call a tree hut. And I'm not just talking a floorboard. We'd build walls, we'd have roofs on it, we'd have 2 stories, we'd have one lower level, and then maybe we'd create a ladder up a branch, 5 meters, and then we'd have another platform up the top. And a lot of the time we'd use it to jump in the river. But I share that because what would happen is we'd build it, and then it'd be like, okay, cool, I've got it. Now what? Right? It's like, let's rip it down and go build a new one in another tree. Right? So if we had enough resource, I would have had probably 50 tree huts along the river line there. But because we didn't, it was more exciting to go on the journey of, okay, here's an empty tree. That branch there and that branch there looks like it'll work for us. Now let's build upon that.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's a super cool story. And you know what? There's so many parallels between your upbringing and my upbringing, because I once attempted, when I was like 2 years old, to unscrew the hinges on the door as well. And I used to climb up the door frames, and I used to climb trees, and I used to get on the roof. I used to just find it so fun to be climbing, and I used to build Meccano and Lego and all the. It was just, it's interesting. I wonder if there's actually an overlap in the way that has people get inspired to become entrepreneurs.
Well, I think it is. It's because a lot of entrepreneurs, if you look at entrepreneurs, there's someone who's taking, the definition, someone who's taking a financial risk for greater profit, right, for reward, which essentially is creating something from nothing, right? I love creating something from nothing, and the tree huts is obviously just one variable of that, showing signs of that in a very early age. There was no one coming and critiquing me. There was no one really judging the tree huts. I just sort of did it out of desire for creation, right?
There's a lot of different types of entrepreneurs. I've often heard stories like this as a listener or a viewer and thought, well, this is great. You guys, you had it in you since you were young. Thanks a lot. I didn't. And now what do I do? And I feel like there's a lot of different types of entrepreneurs. That same chunked up theme of finding what you love within it that actually gets you motivated and excited, and finding joy in the flow of the business can still apply to people that might not enjoy. Maybe it's not the building part. Maybe you just really enjoy connecting with people. And so you get in, you're really good at the sales component and the interaction with clients. And therefore you've got like 2 really strong pillars that make a business prosper. And then you can find people to complement those skills as well. But I think that the theme of leaning into your edges and not leaning into your edges, just finding what you enjoy and then having that as a value proposition and then building around that.
I think there's so much pressure on entrepreneurship. Like, I'd love to go. Like, I watched the episode of The Voice the other night, randomly turned the TV on. I was like, oh, The Voice is back on. And I watched an episode and I was like, oh man, I'd love to be able to sing. But guess what? I can't sing, right? I can't sing. Now, I can go do some lessons. I can hire a coach and I could learn how to sing, and I'll probably be able to belt out a few good tones and I might be able to sound at least respectable for busking on the street. But guess what? I'm not ever going to be a great singer. And guess what? Not everyone who starts a business is going to be good at it. It's just the reality. And I think there's not enough conversation around it right now to go, hey, I don't think you are actually cut out for this. It's like, if your friend sucked at singing, would you say, hey man, do not go on The Voice? You're going to embarrass yourself. Like, I would. I'd go, dude, I don't know what you think you're hearing, but I'm hearing something completely different, right? And
Yeah.
I would recommend not to do it. Now, there's people who are starting businesses, and hey, don't get me wrong, I appreciate everyone's effort, and I love the fact that people want to go out there on their own and do things. But if you're not good at it and you don't have it in you, I feel that there's this DNA inside entrepreneurs who really should be founders, startups of businesses. And the sooner you can realize that maybe you're not the person who should start the business, or add a caveat, maybe you shouldn't start the business by yourself, right? Or maybe you should get some assistant or someone in the business who knows how to do a lot more than you do, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So you play in your lane,
Yes.
right? I don't think there's enough highlighting around that entrepreneurship now is exciting and fun. It's like, yeah, I'm going to start my own e-commerce business because I seen old mate post about it last night. He put a screenshot up and he made $30,000 this week in e-com, and now he's creating a course around it to show you how to do it. Like, I just think that entrepreneurship is a specialized skill set within itself, right? Because it's not just the how do I do it, it's how do I think my way through it? Why am I doing it? What's even the purpose of this? And truly aligning. You know, my vision at the early ages when I started making money, let's say, you know, I was 11 years old, and I shared this was my first ever business, right? Let's be honest, for those out there, it's not a business. I didn't have a PTY LTD, you know, didn't have any payroll, but I was out there working, right? I was on the streets, I was door knocking, I was like, knock, knock, knock. My sales pitch was, hi, my name's Brett Campbell. Do you have any jobs for me? And people were like, no, no, no. And I went all the way down the street, and some people would start saying, yeah, okay, yeah, I've got some of you can do the weeding in the garden, or, you know, you can mow my lawns. And what I found was, once I'd gotten to the industry, I go back to the other industry, and I was like, I learned from things that I learned in the first time. I'm like, knock, knock, hi, my name's Brett Campbell. Do you have any jobs for me? I can mow lawns, I can do the weeding, and I can wash your cars. And they're like, oh, actually, yeah, you can. Someone who said no last time said, yeah, okay, you can wash my car, because I gave them that thought, right? But my point there is my vision at that time, why I was so dedicated after school, every day after school, I'd go out, hit the pavement to get jobs, to generate money. My vision at the time was to generate as many $2 coins as I could. Here's why. $1, I would go and buy jet plane lollies, my favorite lolly hands down. And the other was to get 5 20-cent pieces, because I could normally clock Street Fighter with 5 20-cent pieces.
So you had a why, you had a motivation.
That was it.
Yeah.
So I had a reason. There's people starting businesses right now without that, without even the, why am I doing this? Right? There's no real deeper connection to why people are doing it, and I just think it's a scary place for a lot of people out there right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like this is a conversation that has a lot of different dynamics to it, and I think it's important. What I don't think is spoken about much is the different types of entrepreneurs you can be, the different skills you can have as an entrepreneur. Because an entrepreneur, it's not linear, in my opinion. It's not like this is a good entrepreneur, this is a bad entrepreneur.
Correct.
You can see entrepreneurs that are really successful, but they'd still have strengths and weaknesses. And every single entrepreneur would have a different assortment of strengths and weaknesses. Some would be more strong in finance and operations. Some would be more strong in sales. Some would be really weak at sales, but really good at product design. And you can have different, like, I can't imagine Mark Zuckerberg being very good at sales, but he's a phenomenal entrepreneur. He's great at tech, and he's great at like innovation, and he's an incredibly strategic thinker. But there's different strengths and weaknesses that you can have. And so I think what's important is to not look up to certain entrepreneurs that you aspire to be like. There's got to be a conversation with yourself and some reflection time to go, what am I good at? What am I not good at? And try to find people that have similar personality types, similar strengths and weaknesses that you can model. Because I don't think it's like you've either got an entrepreneurship or you don't, but there might be like the strengths and weaknesses. And if there's 5, or let's say there's 10 different strengths or capabilities you need to have, there could be a total. If it's from 0 to 10 in terms of what you get scored in these 10 different things, and if you're 10 out of 10 on all of them, you're 100. Maybe if total your score's less than 30, then you're not cut out for it. But if you've got a score of 40 because you're strong in these, you're 8 out of 10, and these 5, but then the other 5, you're 0 out of 10 different qualities and capabilities. I think it's important for people just to understand themselves really well, because you're great at sales, you're great at speaking, you've got a great strength of character, you've got great strategic understanding. I've got similar skill sets. I'm really, really weak at operations. I'm really weak at organization. We were talking last time about strengths and weaknesses after the podcast. And I said, one of my weaknesses is, consistency and following up with things, and just, that's that organization component. And I suck at it, but I'm a powerful entrepreneur in my own unique way.
I think that if you look at entrepreneur, using the metaphor of singing again, there's rappers, there's people who can sing opera, people who are pop, etc. Entrepreneurs are being labeled as entrepreneurs. It's like it's such a huge. It's like, might as well say
like artist.
Human. Yeah, you're human, right? Okay, cool. What does that mean? Like I think I said this last week. I'm not sure, but I've sort of had a bit of a, over the last 3 months, this is a new narrative. Often, quite at times, narratives start really amplifying within my own thought process, and I really, and this is part of my insatiable curiousness to just figure things out and try and take it to a depth of where I can no longer understand, right?
Cool.
So when it comes to like entrepreneurship, I'm like, well, and you're hitting it on the head there with regards to the abilities of, you might have stronger abilities in sales or marketing or operations or leadership or, ultimate top line visionary, like a Richard Branson, for example. It's okay to be whatever one it is. You don't have to be all-rounded, because there is no all-round, fully developed entrepreneur who is good at all aspects, because the ultimate reality of an entrepreneur, and I've really only embraced this, and I mean, I've been building teams since 2008, but not until, the last few years of really building out, an organization of, experts in their own fields, etc. So I can personally, essentially be hands off. It's made me understand that, one, it's not about how do I do this, because that's the starting phase of an entrepreneur, right? It's when we got our training wheels on our bike. We don't know how to ride a bike, so we've got our training wheels on, and we're always asking, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I market? How do I say? What's my sales process? How do I do my taxes? You should be asking who, right? Not how, who. That is, for me, the biggest game changer and the biggest tool an entrepreneur could have in their toolkit. It's not how, it's who. Who can I get to help build this? Or who can I get to bring in their skill set where they're potentially maybe better than me at it, or they're at least passionate about it, or they can actually do an adequate job, okay? So that's a real big framing, first and foremost. It's not how you figure it out, it's who can help you figure it out, right? Elon Musk didn't build the rockets that just went to space, right?
Wouldn't surprise me if he can't.
Yeah, probably wouldn't, to be honest. Yeah. He probably had them built when he was 6 years old. But you look at it and you go, I identify myself at this current moment, in this current test of time, is I use the comparison of, I've got my bachelor in business, right? So I'm very well-rounded in a lot of aspects of business, right? And I had to do that the hard way, because I didn't understand this who concept. I was like, how do I do it? How do I do it? And I'd use every waking hour to try and figure it out. And I could only do that and become that because I was very different, right? If you don't have that as an innate thing of how do you figure things out, then you're never going to be able to learn to start with, right?
Yes.
But
I think a simple thing to jump in on there is, like, if you were meant to be in business, you'd have a business. Like, if you wanted to have a business, you just start a business. And if you don't know things, you figure it out. If you can't figure it out, you find someone that can. But it's just like you're saying, the initiative needs to be there. That's just like, initiative has to be there. Yep. That's what a lot of people do lack, and that's where they fall below the kind of like minimum threshold of entrepreneurial talent or character or whatever you call it.
And back to that point of, I've got a bachelor in business, let's say, and just so you can't see my air quotes here, I don't have any certificates from anywhere. Don't worry about that. So this is just a metaphor.
Phew.
Yeah. I went to uni, and I did actually go to uni for a year. That's another story. But I got out of there as quick as I could. But Bachelor of Business, but I've got a PhD in marketing, right? So I chose marketing. I realized marketing was let's call it the main pillar for me to be able to grow a business from really fast, right? So your point there of how am I able to do things really fast? When I understood what marketing was, right, which was a journey of, I seen an online ebook and I was like, oh my God, what is that? Someone just made $37 for selling a workout program. So I became obsessed with, okay, I need to figure it out, right? And on that quest of trying to figure out how do you create an ebook and put it online, began this quest of psychology, influence, persuasion, and ultimately helped me try and get as close as I could to the biggest question that I want to know on this planet is, why do we do the things that we do? Like, that can send you down a gravitational pull, no matter, and forever, right? But I love it because it's sort of like the question that isn't going to get answered. But it sent me down this path, and I realized that, if you're really good at marketing, you're going to be naturally good at sales. Like it's just it's a byproduct of each other, right? A lot of people see marketing and sales as the same. They're similar, right? If you're amazing at marketing and you can move someone from A to Z with words and not even being face to face with them, like the written word, if you can move someone from A to Z and give them that fantastic experience, your sales process should be relatively easy. The sales process should be Visa or MasterCard, right? If you're that good at marketing it. And I was like, okay, so that's cool. If I'm that good at marketing, I'm going to be able to generate a lot more revenue. So then I don't have to, I'm not sitting there creating my cash flow forecast for the next 12 months, next 3 years, etc. Whilst that's all, we all do that now, right? But back in the very early days, I found marketing as the rocket fuel for me to be able to progress fast through the business world, right? Where a lot of people, they enter into their entrepreneurship and they're not a master at anything, right? It's the whole jack of all trades, master of none. And my entire life was, I'm a real good jack of all trades. Like there's not a lot of things that I can't really do, but I'm not exceptional in any of them necessarily because of my curiosity of wanting to learn this.
Yeah.
I was captain of the cricket team, captain of the rugby team, captain of the golf team. But that was only at my high school. When we went to other schools, there was kids way better than me, right? But I say that because I wanted to play every sport. I wanted to be involved in everything, right? And when you want to be involved in everything, when you want to be involved in sales, finance, operations, marketing, you're going to be that jack of all trades, master of none. I found quite early on, and hopefully someone's listening to this and they're going, oh, mate, I really actually love the marketing side, or I actually really love sales, or I really love this concept of leadership, and I'm just going to be the ultimate leader. And inside that leadership, I'm going to build the ultimate team. Like, I didn't start in business and go, I need to build an ultimate team. It was like 5 years ago, I had this massive realization when I was talking with a friend of mine. He's like, Brett, you need to build a team of people. You will amplify everything you do when you've got other people. But I was like, oh, it's just easier if I do it myself. I can do a lot, so I'll just figure it out and I'll get it done. I'll just work 24 hours a day, right? Which was the wrong mentality, wrong attitude. So I really feel once, business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever we want to label it as, can identify a lane that they're exceptional at, and they can then go and amplify that and then find who can fill the other positions, other voids, entrepreneurship becomes a lot more exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it can be litmus test by, do you wake up and feel excited about the day? Because based on my calendar, if I know if I've got podcasts, sales calls, anything that involves speaking, I'm just like excited. If I know I need to really get into the detail of something and I've got time aside to do it, like editing something or writing a long, like for me, writing, then it feels like I'm not that pumped for the day. I know I got to do it at this point, but I'm not that excited.
Mate, that's the golden rule, right? And from day one, I identified with Claxon. So, one of our agencies that we have, from day one, we sat down and I've got a business partner as well. And we have very different skill sets and very different enjoyments, don't think enjoyments is
Passions.
a word.
Yeah.
Enjoyments. Well, we have different things that we enjoy anyhow.
I'll quote you on that. We pull quotes from the podcast.
Mate, go and watch our daily vlogs. You'll hear me mess up fucking hundreds of times.
Or invent hundreds of times.
Yeah, invent. That's what I mean. We actually had a running thing because we did it when we opened our agency 3 years ago. We did a daily vlog for an entire year.
Awesome.
And you'll notice already that I naturally speak in metaphors, because I think metaphors is a language that's really easy to understand and connect. And we had this thing where my videographer is like, oh, we need to start calling these bretaphors. And we've literally got a block, like, I think there was over like 200 and something bretaphors that I said throughout the time, and we're creating a compilation of them right now. Some are absolutely killers. Some are just like, what are you even talking about, mate? Right. But when you put yourself out there, and I consider it as like an average, right? A batting average. Every so often you're going to get a duck, and every so often you're going to get a ton, you're going to get a half century. I just say enough words.
This is cricket for any Americans.
Yeah. Any Americans listening. I just say enough words that it drowns out all the stupid and shit things that I say.
Well, you know what? I think that's actually a really important point. If you chunk up from that, and because for me, I don't like massive pressure on one outcome personally as an entrepreneur. It's something that I figured out. I don't like spending weeks, months on one thing and then it's going to have some big launch and it's either going to work or not work. I like throwing a lot of stuff out there and taking the pressure off it. I don't know if you're similar or different, because for me, I was talking with my partner, Danny, about this last night, and I was really trying to help her extract her passions and how she can get into a rhythm that's enjoyable for her and her online. She's a cookbook author. With what she does, like, does she like videos more? Does she like posting more? And she said she really likes putting lots of effort into one creative project. Yeah. For me, that's like, sometimes I'll enjoy it if I feel a massive pull to do it, but usually I like just getting in there. That's why I don't do massive prep for these chats. I just like getting in there and talking. Yeah. And it's like, let's just have a good time. But if it was like, this interview is going to determine the fate of your business, and then I'm in there and I'm like way more in my head, and I find it puts way more pressure on me. How are you with that? Do you like putting lots of stuff out there to see what works, or do you like really spending lots of time crafting like the perfect?
I probably don't sit in the category of putting stuff out there to see what works. Everything I do, I go into it whether this is going to work, this is going to knock it out of the park. Because if I even go into it with a doubt, or this may or may not work, then it's doomed from the start, from my perspective. Yeah, now, don't get me wrong, I've gone into it. I've gone into a lot of things and it hasn't worked. Right. To give you context, when we launched the franchise, right. So we'd already. So our fitness company consisted of. We started with online products, so it was online workout programs, etc. And then we were building such a massive audience at the time, and this was sort of pre-Instagram going off, and every influencer is now a fitness guru. We had online products, and we're like, we put a Facebook post out to our community, and it was like, who would be interested if we built locations? Where would you want us to build them? And this was just me, random thought. Literally, this is the thought process. Oh, I wonder what happened if we had locations around the country. Oh, I'll check. Literally in 3 seconds, bang, on Facebook. And this post just went crazy. It had like Canberra, Newcastle, bang, 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 place in Australia I've never even heard of. Hundreds of comments. I was like, okay, well, that's enough research for me. Let's build a franchise. Literally. Right. So we already had our own location. So we're running that, and it was going really well. So I knew proof of concept and so forth. Actually, we had 2 locations ourselves at that time. No, 3 locations ourselves at that time. So we knew proof of concept.
Are these outdoor boot camps or?
So it was outdoor, indoor. So it was outdoor, indoor group training. So it was a very hybrid. So we had studios who would be able to attach it onto their business, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. Some people it's their standalone business. And so it catered to a lot of people, right? But the point around that was I had a thought, put a post out, got it, and then I start writing sales copy. So I wrote a web page of sales copy. I knew how to do that because we'd launched at that time maybe 6 or 7 online products at the time. Sold tens of thousands of units of these things. and build that very light infrastructure for a franchise. Had 100 when I launched it, 176 personal trainers or business owners wanting to buy into the business. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, I hadn't thought it through. I didn't really sit down and map out a customer journey. I was just going, let's see if people are interested. Went off like wildfire, and I was like, wow, why don't we now build a RTO and we can get people certified. Like, I love pressure when I'm able to push and move through it. So we built an RTO at very similar time. And I was like, it's getting close to Christmas soon. Let's do another product launch. And at the time, because whenever we did a product launch, it was guaranteed like $100,000 payday, right? Just over a weekend of sales, to give context. So as a younger entrepreneur, I was like, oh, geez, let's create a new workout program as well. But I was doing franchise from 9 till 5. The team would come in and we'd do 9 till 5. So I was like, oh, well, here's what we'll do. And because I wanted to buy a house as well. So I was like, I need some cash for a deposit.
Motivation again.
So it was weird. It was almost like if I wanted something, I was like, let's build a product, right?
Yeah, I feel you.
And so from 4 a.m. till 9 a.m. I was building an information product, and then 9 till 5 I was doing the franchise, and then 5 till, let's call it 9, or until I passed out. And this was over a few month period I was doing this. It was either working on RTO or completing the program, right? So I think the answer would be yes, I do a lot of things at once, but I always go into every single thing, not to just see if it works. It's like, I have this mentality of, if you can do it, why not? Right? If you can do it, why not? Now, of course, there's a lot of filters and so forth that you got to go through that, and my filtering process is a little bit different now. I'm married. I've got commitments and so forth, and I also know the value of looking after myself mentally, and that's not something you can continue doing for such a long period of time. It's not sustainable, which I always knew that. But I do like to work on a number of things, because, for example, our agency, it's probably the first time in my entire business life. Like, I had a 7-figure consulting business before starting the agency. I literally just stopped that, right? So I could go all in on building this agency. I had another business called Unleash Your Greatness, which is in the personal development, self-improvement field, which I'd launched literally a year earlier. We did retreats over to Bali. I wrote my first book from it. We had online courses and programs and so forth, and we did some live events around the country. But I made a decision that, for us to achieve what we want to achieve with the agency, I need to go all in on that, right? So that had been the only core focus. And a month ago, in the midst of COVID, we built another agency in the midst of it, like a sister agency to Claxon, which is called Pure AdWords, which was a different product offering, different service, different customer per se. So I vibe off having multiple things to be able to focus on.
Yeah, I think that's actually quite similar to me, in the sense that I like locking in big ideas that I know, and then I put full faith in them to work. But then it's the micro actions that I find myself easily getting caught up in the pressure of the outcome on, if I don't preempt in my mind that it's okay if that micro action doesn't work. So I'd say, for example, launching a magazine. I know the magazine's going to work, but I don't know which channels are going to hit best. And I don't care if I try promoting it through Insta ads and it's not as successful, or try JVs with other PD celebrities to put it out through their networks, or influencer marketing, and it doesn't work 100%. If I put massive pressure on influencer marketing to work, and then we started doing it, it wasn't working, and then we iterated and it still wasn't working, iterated, it still wasn't working, then I'd feel massive pressure, and that paralyzes me. So for example, when I started winning initially, I said in my mind, and if I didn't say this, I wouldn't have been able to launch for me personally, because I'd be too overwhelmed. I just said, look, it's okay if it takes 3 years of doing a weekly seminar for me to get good at this, and for me to really get it to $1 million a year, which I just knew that if I got good at seminars, I'd be able to do good sales from stage and whatnot. But if I had to, if it was like this next first seminar is going to work, I find too much pressure with that. I was like, you know what? I don't give a crap if it doesn't work, because I'm just going to keep doing it every week until I get really good. And I ended up making 5 sales in my first, 5 sales in my second, 8 sales in my third, which I didn't expect. And I still showed up with 100%. But for me, I found like maybe that's just that was my insecurity or nerves or whatever it is. But for me, working around that, it's devoting to the long term takes the pressure off the short term for me, and that makes it easier to execute.
I probably am a little bit different there. I like to put myself under pressure. I feel like, for example, like if we're playing golf, right? I love golf, and I love a gallery. I love when lots of people are watching, because I don't care if I fuck it up, right? I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on your podcast. Sorry.
You are.
I am. Cool. Okay. Right, the pressure's off now.
Gosh.
Beware. No. One of my things is to be very intentionally aware about my verbiage in which I'm using, especially because I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately. On mine, I just sort of let it loose a little bit. I'm not in a bad way. But for me, I love the pressure, right? I love the more eyes that are watching me, the more it's going to stir me on to do the things that I probably wouldn't do if no one was watching, right? If you're at the gym, right? If you're at the gym and you had no one around you, right? You had no one around you, and you know you got to do 10 reps of 140 kilos on the bench press, right? You're going to do 10 reps. If you're there by yourself and you're like, this is getting hard around 6, you're probably going to lock it back up. If you had 100 people around you watching you, just staring, they don't even need to say anything, and they knew that you needed to do 10 reps, you are going to do 10 reps. Right? You're going to have a far greater chance of hitting 10 reps, right?
Yeah.
So I think for me, knowing how to use pressure and put pressure on the right spots, right? Just like pressure points on our body, right? If you put it in the right spot, it can really heal you, or it can really fuck you up, right? And put you to sleep. So knowing where to put your own pressure, external pressure and your own internal pressure, because there's 2 different types of pressure there, right? The internal is probably the one we need to focus on a lot more. It's like really getting clear on what this pressure means and why it's important to have this pressure, and that pressure is going to be able to help you. And, the old adage, pressure makes diamonds, right? The old cliche there, but I really feel that it's true. I like to have that sense of pressure.
Yeah.
It elevates me.
Yeah. I think that's a really powerful concept. I think it's a different context of like pressure, because for me, like I only succeeded when I knew that I had to make $1,000 mentorship payment every week when I was starting from scratch, and I had to make $1,000 a week. I like that pressure. I just don't like the pressure of knowing that something has to work, specifically like on that individual action, like a sales call. If I go into the call going, I have to close this person, I hate that pressure. I'd rather go, I'm just going to do the best I can. But to
your point is reframing that, right? So you look at it and you go, okay, I have to close this call. What's another couple of ways we could look at that but end with the same outcome?
Well, you could say, I have to change this person's life.
Yep.
But then sometimes changing that person's life is not going to come from being in your process, because they might not be right.
Yep. What's another way you can look at it?
I'm going to do the best I can.
Yep. I have to do the best that I can. I feel that's the only amount of pressure that you can put yourself on. And if you hold yourself in high regard, like I hold myself in high regard. So if we use golf as an example, right, I play with friends.
Do you have a handicap? Do you play properly, like regularly?
Yeah. I've gotten down to about a 6 handicap.
Nice.
So I know how to play golf, right? And this is the difference. Yeah. Unless you're at a single handicap, you wouldn't understand. If you're a avid friendly golfer or a social golfer, hitting a straight shot is amazing for you, right? Or hitting a shot close to the green is really good. If I don't get it on the green, I'm disappointed. Right? So when someone goes, no, that's a really good shot, bro. And I'm like, no, it's not, mate. I need to be within like 3 meters from the pin, because I need to be putting for birdie. Like, and that's what I know to be true for myself, because it's my own expectations. I'm not playing someone else's game of golf. I'm playing my own game of golf.
Yeah.
Right? And my game of golf based off what I know I am capable of and what I can achieve. Now, if you're a 24 handicapper and you're getting angry or you're getting frustrated or annoyed or disappointed, like I am with some of my shops, and then you need to recalibrate your expectations, right? If you're brand new to anything in business and you have expectations to knock it out of the park from day one, then that's ridiculous, right? You need to recalibrate your expectations on yourself. So I have high expectations on myself on certain areas that I know I should have. Not everything.
I feel like discernment is required here, because as we can just see from this conversation, we both have different modes of operating. Because I played golf growing up and I was off 3 handicap when I was 13. And I used to play pennant and I was so hard on myself. I knew my standards, always up and down, always, you know, if I wasn't shooting par or under, I was pissed off at myself. But the pressure was too much that it actually caused me to get in a state where I was unproductive. So I'd be like, and I'd be thinking things like, if I can't shoot under par in this round, how the hell am I going to be the best in the world? How am I going to play pro? And I put so much pressure on myself. It actually messed with my consistency. And then I had other friends that when I was off 3 were off 12, and now they're pro. I kind of like, the pressure was too much for me that I put on myself to the point it was unhealthy. And I feel like a concept that's helpful for me is understanding the difference between a preference and an expectation. Like striving to go, I want this, but if it doesn't happen, it's all G. I'll just improve it and come back stronger, and that's all good. For me, it was like a self-hate cycle. It alluded to my deep kind of self-love issues that I had from a young age, where my whole self-worth, my whole sense of self was derived from hitting goals and achieving. And if I didn't, I felt crap. And I feel like that's where it has been destructive for me.
Well, I played on the Saturday, right? I was even par up to the last 3 holes, and I went double bogey, bogey. And I had to laugh. I was like, this is crazy. Like what? And I'm a massive advocate right now of the universe, right? And let me explain that a little bit. I believe everything's happening the way it's happening because it is, right? And there's no other way we can reconcile that. So if I know that to be true for me, like you weren't supposed to be a pro golfer. Simple as that, right? Easy way to reconcile it. Neither was I. Right? You're supposed to be doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing right now because you're doing it. Like there's no other way to unreconcile that, right?
Yeah, it's like an acceptance strategy, so you can surrender.
Absolutely, it's a massive acceptance strategy. You know, where I could be well off the mark with that, but for me to be able to, and this sort of ties back into, mate, that how are you able to move fast? How are you able to do things and grow, whether it's businesses or like when I get into health and fitness mode, mate, I could be shredded in 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, right? And I'm not shredded right now, but when I get into the mode, I get into that beast mode, right? Of anything, because I can easily reconcile things along the way fast. And I love what you've just said there, because I've never really framed it as an acceptance strategy, but it is. I'm going to use that term. It's my acceptance strategy, because it's the way how I can reconcile this world, this crazy bloody world that we live in right now. It's an easier way to reconcile it and not get too deep into my own head, and allow myself, if I want to critically think about it, I can detach emotion from that and have a real deep look at what's really happening and what are the outcomes of that. So it just makes it. So for me with golf, many years ago, when I was a kid, again, playing competition golf, I would have been destroyed for weeks. So I'd be like, oh my God, how can that even happen? Like, what happened? That doesn't even make sense. Like I didn't even feel like I was choking. That's the funny thing. Like sometimes you can feel the pressure and you feel the pressure. Like I felt no pressure on the weekend. And I'm like, how did that happen? Crazy. Anyway, next hole, oh my God, it just happened again. Like I didn't consciously feel it. Now, obviously, subconsciously, whatever was going on, and I'd love to be able to go back down and break it all down. But the reality was it happened. Cool. And that's why I love golf, to be perfectly honest. That's why I think it's one of the most fascinating games you can play of any game on this entire planet. It's the equalizer.
It doesn't get enough credit in terms of the difficulty of the sport. People think, oh, old people playing golf. There's so many different types of shots to hit.
Oh,
Got bunker shots, chip shots, pitch shots, putting off the green, short putts.
but
You've
then
got
all of those
iron
shots
wood
have
shots.
multiple shots inside of them.
Yeah.
Like you can play a 7-iron punch, you can pitch it, you can roll. It's like, oh
Fade,
my God.
draw, you can curve it, you can spin it back.
Exactly.
And then the ball is always in a different position. It's like in
And
the
then you've got
grass,
to realize,
grass on top of the grass, in the rough,
absolutely.
in the
Then you
sand.
got to realize we're definitely geeking out on golf here. But anyway, you've definitely then got to realize, because here's the reality, and this is again, I love bringing things back to metaphors. Is with golf, and for those who don't know golf,
we're in a metaphor.
We are right now, absolutely.
Metaphor within a metaphor.
So it's an Inception 4. You have a 7-iron, right? And let's say you hit 160 meters with your 7-iron at a perfect shot.
Yep.
Right? Then you've got to work out what is your actual percentage chance of hitting a perfect shot. Right? If you can't hit your 7-iron really well and you're like a 6 out of 10, there's a high probability that you're going to flunk the shot. So then you might hit a poor shot and it goes 120 meters, right? And it totally messes up your entire game. But where golf, and I think why I continued on with it, was I'd get glimpses of my percentages of being able to hit an accurate shot and be able to be in a fighting chance to get closer to the pin. Because it's just like a game. Like you can pull back your throttle on the game controller, and you know if you hit in between the red lines, you're going to hit it X amount of distance, right? It's like the game of life. Sometimes you're going to take a shot and you're going to fucking duff the shot and you're going to hit the grass first and the ball's going to whistle on down to the ladies' tee. Maybe that'll happen, right? But it doesn't mean that's your normal, right? That's not your normal for the shot. So I feel we have normals that we, our natural ability will be able to do X, but if we underperform sometimes, we reconcile that as our new normal when it's not. It's you just had a bad day. You just had a bad day at the office. You just had a bad shot.
I think all of this is like a symptom of the self-worth. Like if you've got high self-worth, you choose to view things in a way that's advantageous to you. And I recognize this, me playing against myself so often. And I realized this probably took me a long time, probably 6 months ago, where I went, holy crap, I'm often choosing to view a situation in a way that's not serving for me. And I looked at Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor just had the worst couple of years of his life. He was doing drugs. He was breaking the law. Everyone was kind of thinking, who is this smuck that's just going out doing all this crap? And he gets through to the end of it and kind of realizes it. And then he's being asked by reporters, you did this and this. And he's like, yep, I did it. But now I've learned from it. I'm stronger. I agree with what you said. I let people down and now I'm here and I'm better than ever. A lot of people would choose to go through that and feel shame and feel guilt and feel low about it. I definitely would initially based on my patterning from the past. But now when I realize, hang on, you can choose to view it duffing a golf shot as a way of like, you can accept it and be like, oh, sweet, that was my chance. You can just frame it in a way that's going to be advantageous for you. Wow, that was just a little test from the universe to give me an extra little bit of strength to come back and be even better. Or that's a learning experience. Now I'm going to move on from it. And I feel like if you find yourself always leaning on the negative or the disempowering frame, not only is it really, really, it's a lot more powerful in the adverse way if you're framing things negatively. I listened to a podcast the other day where they were talking about negative thinking is 4 to 7 times more powerful than positive thinking. So if you have a positive thought in your mind, you look at an affirmation or a vision board or something, that might be worth 10 units of positivity. But then if you think in your head, oh, you still haven't launched that marketing campaign you said you were going to do, you're a piece of shit, then you've actually gone back 70 points. So now you're negative 60. And if you say that negative thing, take it from a thought to an actual verbalizing it out loud, it 10x's the negative impact. So it actually go back another 700. It's like, what? That's crazy. And a lot of people just are in the rhythm of looking at a situation in a way where they're going to demonize themselves because of it, as opposed to frame it to their advantage.
And that's where, for me, that acceptance strategy, right? The whole everything's happening the way it's supposed to happen because it is, and it was supposed to be like that. Like it's helped me reconcile some crazy things in my life, man. Like it really has. And what also comes with that is overwhelming levels of optimism, right? Because you got two ways to think. You can either look at the negative or you can look at the positive. Which would you rather choose? Now, of course, if you sat down with someone and go, oh, of course I'd rather choose the positive, unless they're addicted to the negative
victim mode,
outcomes. But so it's like, okay, cool. So what can you do to enhance your, because I think, being optimistic, I feel there's definitely an innate thing around it. It's not as easy as I just want to be positive, right? But a lot of that comes around with your surroundings, who you surround yourself with, who are you listening to, and I think it's something that can be taught. You can teach that and instill that new way of thinking or habit within inside of someone. Because if you look at it as a habit, it's like, well, okay, how am I looking at something positive today? I use the concept of like lenses, right? Changing the frame. Go, cool, okay. So this just happened. Let's put on the negative lens. What's the worst thing that could happen here? What's the worst outcome? Okay, cool. Now let's look at the positive lens. What's the best thing that can happen? Right now, actually, funnily enough, I've got a book right here next to me. Something's happening right now in my life where I need to reconcile something, and it's taking a little bit longer, and it's a bit harder for me to reconcile it.
Tell us about it.
I just probably won't right now because I'm midst reconciling it. But here's how I've gone about it. Like right now, and I'm partway through, and I feel I'm maybe another day or so, and this thing will be reconciled, right? Because we are human, and we still have to think through these layers and layers and layers of things. Because especially when it's a multifaceted, there's a lot of things attached to it, and a lot more people and so on and so forth. It becomes more complex, right? But for someone like me, I look at this, and one of the first things I was like, Brett, this is supposed to be happening to you right now, because it is happening. And I'm like, you're right, this is going to be an opportunity for me to, like, this is a Rubik's Cube, like on steroids, right? This is a Rubik's Cube that changes every 20 seconds. So you really got to try and figure this thing out as you're doing it. But one of the things that I do, and an exercise that I do in these times, is I need to write down as many positive outcomes from this situation until I'm overwhelmed and I'm actually sitting there grateful that this thing has happened to me. Right, and I've got some pretty overwhelming positive things that have come from it, and a fair few that I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that. Oh my God, I've been putting that out to the universe. Like I've literally been putting that out to the universe, and this is just the universe's way of saying, hey man, we'll give you a bit of a push or a shove here and there, and you need to figure it out though. But my point there, from an exercise perspective, what people can tactically do is flood yourself with overwhelming positive outcomes. And if you're sitting there going, there's nothing positive about it, make it up, pretend. Imagine that you had to come up with some positive things.
Yeah. Or
use it as take yourself out of the situation, because this is the biggest problem with most people. They still keep themselves in the situation, and it's that default back to the poor me, this happened when I was a child, and so all these other limiting beliefs pop up, right? Now, when I say poor me, I'm not discounting people's feelings at all, but what I'm saying is we turn into that victim, and we're trying to solve something in victim state when we need to remove ourselves. So put someone else in your position and go, okay, if Barry, or if your mate Barry or your friend Sarah was...
If you're from Australia.
Yeah, Bazza.
Mate Bazza.
Bazza and Shazza. Or if you're from France, Francois, if your mate Francois, put him in the situation and go, okay, what if I had to give Francois some positive outcomes, knowing what I know, which is everything about this, what advice would I give for Francois? What are some of the positive things? And start writing them down. I guarantee you'll be able to tap into another layer, and you're going to start to get some better outcomes from it, because you're removing yourself. You're just detaching yourself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I really like that. There's one thing that I've been trying to build as a habit. It's like a new powerful technique that I've been using. I happen to have, hey, where is it? Oh, there's, I've got this picture of myself as an old person.
Yeah.
And just as you can, sorry?
Was that using the app?
Yeah, I was using the app.
I'm glad you're still using you've still got the beard.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not getting rid of that.
Yeah, it's showing my future, because it's going to keep grooming this one. But what we can do is, as our current versions of ourselves, we can go back to the past and change an association to an event. So if you're 10 years old and you're like, went through a really tough time and you got teased heaps, you could be like, man, I had a really sucky upbringing and now I'm, you know, not confident as a result. Or you could be like, I got through one of the hardest times ever and now I'm, you know, as a result, I've got a really strong kind of sense of self because of it. In the same token, there's a version of you in the future that is wiser, more grounded, just has generally more wisdom. And I look at a picture of myself as an older version, similar to what you're saying there. And I say, well, if I just bring this dude into the situation, what would his perspective be of it? And if I actually take the time to do that, which I'm really striving to build as a habit because it's powerful when I do it, but I don't always do it. Just the energy that I perceive this future version of me to have is very calming. Because he's super chilled. He's kind of seen the world. He's gone through all this stuff. And I might be feeling like this thing has to work, but he's just like, dude, chill out. It's what you've already had plenty of success, plenty of failure. Life's not about that. It's about joy. It's about love. It's about interaction. It's about the experience of what you're going through. And it's a really interesting way that I've been able to approach that.
I often meditate on meeting, going to a specific place and talking with my older self, right? That older version of me, and seeking wisdom from that person.
Yeah,
it's a very powerful meditation.
Like a specific place where that's relevant to a decision you're going to make, or you just have like another nice kind of meeting place that you always.
So I've got a specific meeting place that I literally created when I first sort of learned meditation, right? Which is the same spot. It's so vivid. I want to almost get an artist to draw it, but I don't want it to sort of come to life because it's in here, right?
It's a special personal thing.
Yeah. And it's a place where I go and do a lot of my, healing or figuring stuff out. Because I truly believe we all have the answers inside of us somewhere, right? And if we don't, we can seek it from someone else. And I don't think you actually have to have a dialogue with someone to actually receive that answer either. So I quite often will go into that place and I've got a specific area that I sit and bring the person, me, the older me, into the scene and have a dialogue. And I'm like, hey, what do you got? What do you got for me? And man, once you can detach, this is the thing, you have to be able to detach. Because if you're sitting there going, oh, fuck, it's just me. Oh, God, things are tough. This isn't working. You need to be able to detach and just hear. It doesn't mean it's going to be right or wrong or whatever it is. It's just it is. But I've found that to be very advantageous as well. I've also found that when you're having, you bring anyone else into, like if you've got anything going on with anyone else in your life, or you've got unresolved relationships or things aren't working, bring that person. So I bring that person into the space and let them speak, right? And it's not hurting me because it's me and I'm there. But I'm allowed to, speak on what they probably think. Because if you got rid of all your own personal frustrations to someone and you're able to go, what do you think they feel though? Like, what do you actually think that they're feeling right now? Do you think they really, really set out to hurt you, or they really like a number of situations had to unfold in order for this thing to happen?
Yes.
Have you given yourself time to be able to really sit and think and go back through that and figure out why that person may have said this or why they may have said that? And it helps you reconcile. It allows you to tap into another train of thought. And that might be enough for you to go, you know what, now I'm going to pick up the phone and have a chat.
Yeah.
Right? You could be well off, though. You could be well off, but it's the act in which it enables you to take the next step.
Yeah. I love that. I really love that. It's compassion, it's empathy, and even the intention to want to do that activity in itself shows that there's a big heart there, and there's taking the time to understand where someone else is at. It's pretty cool that you can jump inside your mind and play these things out. And I remember my meditation teacher once said to me that, the relationship that you have with someone else is more it's more about what you think about them and feel about them when you're not with them than when you're actually with them. Because if you catch up with them and then you leave and you're kind of thinking these things that you didn't say, an energy gets formed and then it gets projected back onto them when you catch up with them next. If you could take the time to do what you just said there, I mean, it'd change the game for all of your relationships. It's just actually taking the time.
And it's wanting to, right? It's it's wanting to be able to reconcile.
Yeah.
I realize that in order for me to do and be more, and tap into that best version of me, this is a requirement. Like I can't hold grudges. I can't sit and hold grudges. And it doesn't mean you have to, reconnect with someone and start the relationship again, right? If you've been hurt in that aspect, it's being able to reconcile that so it doesn't sabotage your future relationships.
And
whether it be with friends and your own internal, because if you're settling for something, then there's no lying to yourself. Like you could think someone likes you and they don't, but when you don't like yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. You know when you have love for yourself because you feel it, and everyone can sort of see that because when you do have that self-love, everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. And we brought on 2 new team members on Monday, and at the start of the first thing of everyone's work day at Claxon is I spend a couple of hours with them sitting down talking about the vision, the mission, the values of the business, what it's all about, why we do what we do, where we've come from, where we're heading towards, etc. And I just go into a lot more deeper conversation around that. And one of our values, our first value, is be energetic, right? And it's not running around like a loose cannon being energy. It's having a level of energy that is palpable to another human being so that they can feel a specific energy, right?
Enthusiasm,
but there's the negative energies, there's the positive energies, there's the relaxed energies, etc., right? But I share it's that if we truly understand that all we are is energy, right? Right now, you're just pixels on a screen, and behind that screen, you're just fully formed pixels, right? So am I, which is a crazy concept in itself to even try and reconcile, right? But we are all energy, and energy is palpable, energy is transferable, and you as a human being have the ability to negatively or positively influence someone at any given time. Any given time. That is such a power. The power of that. Think about that. You could transform someone's moment with your own level of energy. So really truly understanding what that means and what it's about. And even if you're sitting in a chair and you slump shoulders, people feel it and see it. And I know why a lot of people do it, because that's a signaling sign to go, hey, I don't know how to ask for help, or I'm feeling a little bit shit, or that person just annoyed me. So I'm not gonna say it, because if I say it, that means it's real. Don't worry, you don't even need to say it. I can see it, which is worse, because it means you're not stepping up and owning what you're feeling, right? So energy is absolutely palpable, and I think obviously everything does stem from it. That's actually what fact. So being able to control and or at the very least understand your energy and how you are showing up is absolutely powerful.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, Brett. That's really beautiful that you've got that in your culture for people to be able to have full permission to be themselves in any moment. And it's obviously going to help build trust and work through conflict and enable accountability and results. But it is just really beautiful that people can feel like themselves at your workplace.
Well, they have to be, right? I truly feel everyone should be themselves, because if you're not being yourselves, you're masquerading as someone else, and that's actually worse for you, because you're showing up every day as someone who's not the right person. Like you go home and you're like, oh my God, that was tough, because it's hard to not be yourself.
Yeah.
Like it's exhausting trying to be someone else or trying to put on a facade, right? So we hire every single person based off, will they be an energetic cultural fit to our business? We don't want people like everyone to be like me, because I'm fucking 12 out of 10 on the energy scale, right? But I also know when I can dial it back to 6 when it's needed, and when when I need to up level it to 7 to 8, etc. But not a lot of people are in that sort of mindset. So we need some 6 out of 10 energy levels to moderate the 10s and 12s, right? Energy, like when people talk about balance, I think this is one of the biggest things, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. But when people talk about balance, they think 50-50. That's where a lot of the natural, okay, balance, yeah, I've got to even it out. But that's not what balance is. Balance is 70-30, 90-10. You just got to figure out what actually is sitting in those boxes of percentages, right? Like a lot of people go, oh, you need to find work-life balance. So you should only work 8 hours, then you should be at home for 8 hours and sleep for 8 hours. That's balance. It's like, well, for a lot of people, that is not balance. Like, you're going to get more out of me as a human being and as an awesome person, as a friend, as a partner, if I'm able to be spending more time in my energy levels and the things that inspire me and make me, whether that's 8 hours or 12 hours or 15 hours work a day, or it might be 3 hours one day, right? It might be an hour. I might just take the day off because I'm feeling it, right? But when you're able to be, I guess, construct your own form of what balance looks like for you, and not trying to copy what my balance looks like or your balance looks like or your morning routine or my morning routine. And, because a lot of people do, they're like on this quest for, how do I do it? How do I get these results, right? And you're like, well, here's what you got to do. Get up at 5, got to do this. Then you got to go and do all of that. Then you got to work out exactly like this, eat exactly that. That's not what we're put on this planet for. Everyone's different, right? We're all different levels of energy, and we need to be worked and molded in our own unique way.
Yeah, I think the most important thing within that concept is actually understanding that feelings are more accurate than thoughts. And the reason that I think that's important in this context is because people try to figure out themselves intellectually. But your intellect just takes external information in. Your intellect takes external information in, and it uses the exposure you've had to society, teachers, parents, etc., from when you were younger, or what you've seen from the past, to try to make sense or have a guess at what's most needed. Whereas your intuition and your feeling tells you in that moment what's needed, and it is always 100% accurate. So on one particular day, you might feel the need to finish work at 3 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. And if you're like, but intellectually, Elon Musk's works till midnight, so that's what I should do. Well, that's using intellect, and that's information. It's thoughts, it's not feelings. Whereas your feelings are going to be 100% accurate, and your thoughts can only attempt at verbalizing and explaining what is 1,000,000% true, because it is true within you. And people are so disconnected from their feelings, so disconnected from their intuition, that they find themselves just constantly reactively bouncing around with different concepts. And unfortunately, that's what social media does. And I try to use discernment as much as possible and preach discernment, the ability to decipher between extremes, what's needed in the moment. But when you're in social media, you literally just have people preaching extremes. Like at the moment, you can see what's going on. It's like everything needs to change, or you shouldn't ever say something like this. And it's like, well, no, sometimes you should, sometimes you shouldn't. People are like, this is bullshit that people are getting angry about this Black Lives Matter thing. It's like, anger is sometimes what's required. Other people like, love's the way. Sometimes love's required, sometimes anger is required. And so I feel like just being able to use your own feeling, your own intuition to choose what's needed for you creates a hell of a lot of confidence, a hell of a lot of empowerment. And it makes you, be someone that is operating as who you really are in the world. And that's what I look for in stuff. Because if someone comes on and he's like, what do you want me to be? I want you to be energized. I want you to be confident. I want you to communicate heaps. I want you to work from this time to this time. If they try to be that person that I say, but that's not their optimal workflow, they're going to be less productive. They might work better in short bursts. They might work better in longer, just like less intense days. They're trying to do me, and it's different to what they perform best in. They're just ultimately going to produce a worse result. It's interesting.
We're all different vehicles. We need different fuel. We need different oil. We need servicing differently, right? Yeah. That's really the golden nugget, is that when you allow yourself to be the person that you truly are, right? Obviously, there's some parameters around that, but speaking to the majority of awesome human beings here, you don't try and be someone else, because we are we are living in a time where we are being, a lot of people's decisions, and even sometimes myself, I find myself doing it, we're being guided by what other people are doing, and we feel we need to do it just to fit in. You know, like the whole Black Lives Matter situation. What frustrates, like, there's people out there now saying if you're not taking a stand, or if you've got a following and you're not talking about this, then you're on the side of, you're on the wrong side. It's like, how dare someone even suggest that because they're not being vocal like you? I mean, I haven't commented. I put up the Black Tuesday image last night on my Instagram because I seen a couple of my friends over in the States do it. I'm like, yeah, well, happily to do that, but I'm not commenting because I don't know enough about it, right? Like, and when I don't know enough about things, I've got an opinion, and I'm open to having a dialogue with someone about it and figuring it out, but not enough where I'm going to make a public statement on social media, because that's what social media is. It's public statement after public statement.
Yeah.
Very rarely can you get an engaging conversation without people throwing and spewing shit at you that you're like, oh my God, this is why I didn't post in the first place.
Yeah.
You know,
I was very similar. I didn't have a strong stance on it. I haven't copped racism because I'm white in Melbourne, from Melbourne. I haven't copped racism. I feel a deep amount of empathy for anyone that has, and if I ever see it, it makes me feel sick. Not just racism though, any form of judgment or hate or pain being inflicted on anyone that hurts me. And so I didn't really have anything to say, and I really felt into it. And it's like, what do I think? Well, it's like, hang on a second. I love the fact that people are rallying together for a common cause. That's something I can say yes to. I really like I feel like what's beautiful about this whole thing that I don't understand fully is love. People are trying to create love. So I posted the black thing and said, I haven't copped racism. I don't fully understand it and never will because I just haven't been in that position, but I want to encourage love. And then I got some comments on my post some people just doing the emoji of like hand on head. Like people being like, do you realize that this many people have died black people have died in Australia? And it's got nothing to do with my post. I didn't have any stance on racism and it's very interesting.
It's such a difficult thing to try and figure out, and because no one knows the answer. And I've been listening to a fair few things over the last few days, trying to understand it at a deeper level, right? Something I read this morning though that sort of sat with me, interestingly enough, because when people go, Black Lives Matter, so someone will post Black Lives Matters, and then people will jump on and go, all lives matters, right? All lives matters. And it's like, that my natural, and I'll put my hand up here, my natural thought was, yeah, all lives do matter, right? That's correct. But a guy I know, and it does help when it's, comes from someone that you know is not a troll, and they're not just trying to stir shit.
Yeah.
Said along the lines of, he said some pre-text language and so forth that I probably wouldn't have used, because as soon as you say it, you just dilute what you're about to say. Anyway, but the premise was, when someone says Black Lives Matters and you go on and post all lives matters, you're protesting against the Black Lives Matters. And I was like, oh, fuck, you really are. Like, essentially, it's like, why do you even have to go and write all lives matters? And I mean, I don't go and post that. I wouldn't post that. But when I seen someone post, I was like, okay, it makes sense. But hearing that one little thing which can change my perspective on one little part of something, which is not a major part of it, but it's like, because it is right that all lives matters. Yeah. And just because something's right, it doesn't mean it needs to be said.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I never thought of it or looked at it like that. But when you do say all lives matters, or white lives matters as well, or, that's just a defense mechanism for someone to go, they're reading Black Lives Matters as though only Black Lives Matters, but it doesn't say only Black Lives Matters. It says Black Lives Matters.
Yeah.
But I was glad I read that, because it was a different frame for me to go, you know what? It is actually a protest back to the Black Lives Matters thing. So it's information, right? It's finding these, and it's going to be a super slow burn to figure it out.
Yeah, it's a beautiful open mind that you're taking to the topic, and like I really agree with what you said. Have not judging, because even the person that said all lives matter doesn't fully get it, isn't doesn't have bad intent most likely. And it's like, he's probably not trying to judge. He's probably trying to say.
It doesn't mean they're racist.
Doesn't mean they're racist. The person that responded's just got good intent. The person that did the Black Lives Matters just got good intent. It's like most of the people that, like most people have good intent. It's just the key 1-2% of America or 0.01% of America who are intense racists that have the bad intent. But then all the people that have mostly good intent are being judged and fighting about it, which is interesting. But it's just crazy that it's cool that things like this can get discussed, actually, because it wouldn't have had, oppression could be so easily controlled and managed and not fought against when there isn't the space for people to rise up in a collective way with the access to technology and leverage that everyone has now. It is pretty cool.
Yeah, look, it is. And I mean, I don't know about you, but my Instagram is every second photo is the blacked out picture, which is great because it's creating awareness. My concern around it is that how like momentum only stays for so long. Like, remember when we had coronavirus? Seriously, like what the fuck? Like,
and then the bushfires, the same thing before.
The news cycle has changed, and this just highlights how persuasive the media is. Like how crazy the media is, and how much control that they can have over what we are thinking and feeling, like basically hypnotizing us within. It's
fear. Fear is the thing that's enthralled us, and like fear enthralled us with the bushfires, fear enthralled us with coronavirus, fear enthralled us. Like I felt fear at certain times around this black thing. I see something like, whoa, that's intense. That's scary. And it's like, I post with good intent. I get a backlash from it. It's like, fuck, that's scary. It's like, whoa, there's some intense stuff, and it's like really there's a lot of things blowing to the surface.
Well, even to the point where MSNBC posted a video of LA like burning, and it was literally a clip out of World War Z. Like someone like, this is crazy, man. It literally is exactly the same as, oh my gosh, like they're clearly using this to create hysterics, like the world is ending. Which the sad thing is, it takes away from, I feel, it takes away from the value of the conversation that needs to not happen, but continue. It's like, and I understand, I can sympathize in a way, and I want to have more conversations about this because I personally, and I've said this word a lot here, reconcile, right? It's one of my favorite words. I want to try and reconcile that where this whole rioting is, potentially a positive thing for the narrative to continue. Like I've heard a lot of people say out online where it's, if you're focusing on that, the riot shouldn't be happening, they shouldn't be vandalizing things, and almost creating that as an accepted thing, like that's okay, Target's got insurance, and this isn't just online trolls, these are people with big voices out there saying it. I still am in the camp of going, what happened was absolutely fucking horrible. There needs to be legislative change around what happens to police officers who do that to anyone, right? Especially black people. But the whole destroying, like, there's only so many videos you can watch. Yesterday I watched a video, there was 4 black African-American guys trying to break into an old white lady's shop, and she's standing out the front door going, no. And they got pieces of timber, and they're trying to smash the window, and then one of them just beats her, and the other grabs a stick, and he's starting to smash her with this stick. And it's like, that is like, that's going to be the lasting memory in a lot of people's minds. Like I can't sort of get that out of my mind and go, oh, they're not being heard, so that's their way of outrage. It's just really difficult.
In every category of people, like there'd be black people who are racist. There's definitely a collective issue around racism.
Absolutely.
Black people, but I mean, there's always going to be extremes in every societal group. Hopefully, like you said, that isn't the lasting memory in people's minds, because it wouldn't be an accurate depiction of the whole situation. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the big thing is that the legislation needs to change. There just needs to be harsher penalties on people.
But I would also say that like what's happening socially is creating more awareness around something that maybe it's not maybe there's things that we don't understand around racism, where it's not just about consequences for people that directly do harsh law-breaking things wrong, but also how people say certain things emotionally or feel about a black person or feel.
And opportunities. I watched the Russell Brand did a podcast yesterday. He was talking to an Englishman, so a black Englishman, and he was talking about the systemic component to it of, you know, how it's embedded in the culture. Like, it's, in order for racism to end, the whole system has to be broken and rebuilt, because it's built on the minority of, you know, that cheaper labor or the opportunity. And, you know, there's so much more that needs to be said. And that's what I want to be hearing out there. That's what I want to be seeing on social media. And, you know, I mean, I've got no answers for any of this, but, I'd love to be a part of the conversation and understand it more, you know. And I think most people would. Most people are just fearful of saying anything because of you're going to get attacked.
Yeah, and I looked at, because I felt that way. I was like, I don't have a strong stance. Should I say something? And it's like, hang on a second. Well, I do have an opinion about some things, and I've got the right for free speech, and I've got the right to do it. And if someone's going to judge me, then, you know, that shouldn't stop me from expressing myself authentically from a good intent, even if I don't understand something fully.
But it's a real tough decision.
Yeah.
Because it's like, all of a sudden, whatever your political views are, you know, as soon as you step on one side of the fence, there's going to be an army of people who will disown you straight away. And it's like, wow, really? Like, yeah, because I've been following you know, I know more about the American politics than bloody Australia, right? Because it's publicised a lot more, and it's almost like this bloody huge entertainment show. Really, it's crazy. But you know, with the narratives that they're putting up against Trump and just the things that are unfolding and everything. Like, I mean, I was saying to Emily last night, we were going for a walk and we're talking about it, and I was like, literally, like, Donald Trump could just say, I'm sorry. Like, if he just said, I'm sorry, he would get barraged of people going, see, he's admitting all of his crimes, and he's admitting all of, like, no matter what you say, in some cases, it does not even matter.
Yeah. But I do think that being able to stand strong in your heart and strong in yourself, and not, because I feel like the moment that you start shaming yourself is when you open yourself up to, that's self-criticism. And that gives permission for other people to criticize your, as long as, like, I'm presupposing that you've got good intent. It allows other people to jump on and start criticizing you as well. So I think it's really important to be open. Just you, I think you're a great example of this. Just, you've got a very open mind, some curiosity. You're clearly saying you don't know the topic fully. Very similar stance to what I have, but then not feeling shit about yourself, or, you know, getting the right balance there of respect and open-minded listening, and also not just completely feeling guilty for and scared of what to do as well. Just being like, no, I'm a good human. I've got good intent, and I can say certain things. If it's something don't know heaps about, I'm not going to go preaching random intense perspectives. But I'm still going to have my say, and you know, from my well-meaning perspective, and not hate on myself for that.
Very true.
Yeah. We've had some interesting chats, the last couple of chats that have gone on some crazy tangents, which is great. I love talking about it.
Absolutely.
Helps reconcile, like you said, it's one of your favorite words, helps discern and reconcile for me.
Life.
Yeah, exactly. Because this is very much a big part of life.
I see life as a game, right? Like, life is a big game, and, you know, it has its ups and downs and everything else in between. But to win games, you need strategies, right? And every single micro component of our life, there's a strategy attached to it. Brushing your teeth, there's a strategy of how you brush your teeth, whether you know it or not. You know, you have a way that you do it.
I legit changed my teeth brushing strategy the other day because I got retainers. I could see after I brush my retainers where wasn't brushed properly, because there's this white residue on it. I'm like, fuck, I'm not brushing like the middle of my teeth well enough. And I never knew that before because I couldn't see my own teeth. And now I've changed my strategy.
If you want to see how strategically led you are in life, start brushing your teeth with your opposite hand. It will be awkward, right? Because you're like, oh, wait on. And think about that. That's just brushing your teeth, but everything you do is a strategy. So the game of life is being able to find better strategies for everything that you do.
Mine went somewhere else where you were saying, try doing this with your opposite hand.
Well, you could try that as well.
You could try plenty of things with your opposite hand, brushing your hair, doing all sorts of stuff. I would love to wrap up this interview by asking you a question. And also, how's this? I want to start by asking you where people can find you. You've got beautiful insight. You're a beautiful man. You've got a big heart. You've got a very intelligent outlook of life and business, and you really practice what you preach and lead by example. I know people that are listening would love to check you out. So where's the best place for them to follow and engage with what you're all about?
I'm on all the socials, but you can just go to Brett Campbell, Brett Campbell. It's like a Campbell.
Exactly.
I wish I had a name that was like Smith or something. It's just the amount of times in my life I've said Campbell, like a camping bell. Okay.
You know what? Imagine a bell at a camp. That's
it. Sometimes I go into that. I confuse the shit out of them just for fun.
But are you most active on any particular platform?
I'm pretty much Facebook and Instagram are the majority, but you can reach me on all of them. I'm on all of them. So brettcampbell.com.au, and you'll be able to find the link to all of those anyway.
Cool. Awesome. So I encourage anyone that's listening, before I ask you a big bring it home question, I'd love for you to send Brett a message just saying if what stood out for you about the interview. It's always so lovely to receive a message. If you want to do that through the website or just follow him on Instagram, Brett Campbell, send him a message. It always means the world. And I always encourage listeners to do that with the guest because it's a special thing to get. Okay, cool. So I've got a final question for you. And then there's one last thing I'd like to end on. And that is, if you could give any piece of advice that you would say is like the most valuable thing that you live your life by, or you'd like other people to take from knowing you, what would that piece of advice be?
I think it has to be a continuation of this concept that I've mentioned many times here, is that just understand that every single thing that's happening right now is happening because it is, and it's supposed to. Like for me, being able to have that as my acceptance strategy and being able to have an acceptance strategy to our point, life as a strategy, right, filled with micro strategies. And the more you can sort of create these things, you're governed by sets of guidelines and rules around it. I just think you're going to be able to achieve a lot more, do a lot more, and be a lot more in this time that you have on this planet.
That's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing. And before we wrap up, I want to honor you, Brett. I want to honor you for being a role model, for being a really great new friend of mine. You've got a big heart. I feel that heart, man. And I know that you're just storming after what you want in life and just going guns blazing. And that in itself is such a beautiful form of leadership. I want to honor you for your empathy and compassion and care, for building a beautiful tribe that you've built with your business, and for being such a results-driven, hardcore example of an entrepreneur. So thank you, man. Thanks for being you, and thanks for jumping on today.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And to everyone listening, hopefully, well, no, you got some value, because I'm confident in knowing that what me and you just talked about there, for how long did we go? Hour and a half. There we go. Felt like 20 minutes, mate. Appreciate it. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to share with your audience.
And if you're still here, but you didn't get value, then you should have stopped listening.
Yeah. You need a new strategy. Telling you.